I stood at the far end of the dining table, trying to balance a glass of champagne and my restless baby on my hip. The entire family was there, plus a few of my mother-in-law's close friends. The moment felt stiff. I knew something was coming. My Mael, Patricia, held up her glass. "Let's raise a toast," she said in her polished voice, "to all the women who snap back after giving birth, if they put in the effort." Her gaze flicked to me like a laser. "Once upon a time, we had quite the figure over here." She tapped her glass against mine. "Too bad some people don't care enough to try anymore." Everyone froze. My cheeks burned. My throat tightened. Was she really saying this in front of everyone? My husband, Drew, grabbed my hand under the table. I forced a painful smile, feeling humiliated. The silence broke with a few awkward laughs. I wanted to vanish. When dinner ended, I excused myself, pretending I needed to change the baby. As I slipped away, I heard Patricia whisper to her cousin, "He could have done so much better." My hand shook on the doorknob. I bit my lip to keep it together. I knew nothing would ever be the same after that toast. In the car, I finally let it all out. Tears streamed down my face, hot and fast. I heard Drew swear under his breath. He pulled me into his arms, careful not to jostle the baby, and gently rubbed my back. "I can't believe she'd say that in front of everyone," I sobbed. "She's acting like I'm some lazy slob." Drew's jaw tightened. "I'm done with her, babe. Enough is enough. She's insulted you before, but this time she crossed a line she can't walk back." I wanted to protest, but my pride was too wounded to argue. Patricia had always been hypercritical, especially when it came to appearances. But humiliating me like that at a family celebration felt cruel in a new way. He shifted, taking a deep breath, then opened his laptop on the center console. I watched him type furiously, eyes hard with determination. "Who are you emailing?" I asked through sniffles. He paused, then shot me a look that sent a wave of both relief and unease through me. "Someone who's been waiting to help us set boundaries with my mother. I'm not letting her get away with this again." I had no idea what that meant, but I knew it was big. I remember the early weeks after giving birth. Late nights with a wailing baby, the overwhelming exhaustion, and my own reflection in the mirror, softer, rounder, unfamiliar. I'd do light home workouts whenever the baby napped. I tried to eat healthier, though life was chaos. My body was still recovering, my hormones wild. Some nights I'd cry alone in the bathroom, remembering my old jeans that didn't zip anymore. No one saw how hard I was trying. Or maybe they just didn't care. Patricia never let me forget her own perfect figure. She'd say, "I bounced back in 6 weeks." I doubted it was true, but I didn't argue. One afternoon while folding laundry, an email from her popped up on my phone. Attached was a diet program, a BMI chart, and a little note. "I thought you needed this. No excuses." My hands trembled, tears filling my eyes. I was trying my best, yet she acted like I was lazy or ignorant. I wanted to scream. Later that night, I found my husband in the living room reviewing insurance forms. I showed him the email. He read it, eyes darkening. "This stops now," he whispered. But it didn't stop. The worst was still ahead. The baby was fussing when Patricia stopped by unannounced. She breezed in, wearing sleek designer clothes, scanning the living room like she was raiding a hotel. "This place is untidy," she said, eyes locking onto my stained shirt. "And you look tired." "Hi, Patricia," I forced. But she wasn't done. She made a point to pat my stomach and say, "You might want to watch that. You're still young, but that window closes fast." Once she was gone, I let out a shaky breath. I found Drew in the nursery, rocking our son gently. His eyes were stormy. "Do you know she used to do this to my dad, too?" he asked quietly. Always picking on him as he got older. She drove him to a point where he hated eating around her. I never knew. My father-in-law was always quiet, as if walking on eggshells. I just thought he was reserved. Drew stood, carefully laying our son in the crib. "But this time," he said, voice cold, "I have something she can't talk her way out of. Something my dad gave me before he passed." My pulse pounded. "What do you mean?" He shook his head. "Let's just say, my mom isn't the person she pretends to be." Our tiny home office smelled faintly of dust and printer ink. Drew unlocked a drawer I'd barely noticed before. He pulled out a thick, worn envelope, edges bent and stained with time. He looked at it like it was radioactive. Slowly, he ran his fingers over the seal. "My dad left this for me before he died," he explained. He said if Mom ever targeted me or my family the way she targeted him, I'd know what to do with it. I stood there, heart pounding. What's in it? Drew didn't open it. Instead, he exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for hours. Evidence, he said softly. Proof of things she's tried to hide. I swallowed. I wasn't sure I wanted to see it. But then I remembered the sting of her words, the smug looks, the constant pain. He tucked the envelope under his arm. If she says one more word, one more cruel, humiliating word, this is going straight to the country club and to her fancy friends and her entire circle. In that moment, I sensed this was more than petty revenge. It was about righting years of wrongs. I took a shaky breath. Then we wait. 2 days later, Patricia invited us to brunch at an upscale hotel. Her friends were there, women who seemed to live for Pilates classes and gossip columns. Drew and I arrived late on purpose. Patricia wore a bright smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm so glad you could join us," she cooed. At first, she focused on the baby, passing him around like a prize. Then she handed me a glossy brochure. It had pictures of surgeons, lipo procedures, and tummy tucks. "This is the best mommy makeover in the state," she announced, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I made you an appointment. You can thank me later." My blood turned to ice. My cheeks burned. Drew leaned in and muttered, "We're leaving." I pushed the brochure away, letting it fall onto the table with a loud slap. Her airbrushed friends stared, half hiding their smirks. For a moment, Patricia's expression faltered, surprise flickering behind her perfect lipstick. I stood up, voice trembling. "We didn't come here for insults." We turned to walk away. The hush that fell was suffocating. My heart pounded as we left. One more word, I thought. Just one more. And that envelope would open. Back home, Drew's phone buzzed. He frowned at the screen, then showed me. A text from Patricia. "Control your wife or I will." My hand shook in anger. "Are you kidding me?" I whispered. Drew saved the text, his face calm but eyes blazing. Then he typed back, "Try it." A minute later, I heard his keyboard clack in the study. When I wandered in, I found him scrolling through old social media archives. Patricia's accounts were squeaky clean, like she didn't exist before she was Mrs. Rich, perfect and famous at her country club. "Strange, right?" he said quietly. "Most people have at least a few photos from high school or college. Hers are all gone." I rubbed my arms, chilled. She's always been secretive about her past. Every time I ask, she changes the subject. He clicked on a link, but it led to a deleted page, a spiral of emptiness. Something was off. My phone chimed. It was her again. "If you keep crossing lines, you'll regret it." I stared at that threat, my stomach twisted. Drew turned his chair to face me. "I'm adding this to the folder," he said. "Keep everything. We're building a case." Over the next few days, I watched Drew gather information like a detective. Old emails, odd postcards, snippets of medical bills in Patricia's name. Even a worn USB drive that made me shiver when he held it up. He slipped everything into the envelope. I finally understood why he kept it locked. It was more than a family spat. It felt like we were archiving an entire secret life. One afternoon, I peeked over his shoulder. "Hey," I asked, "didn't you mention sending something to the country club?" He kept his gaze on the screen. "I wrote them a heads up about some discrepancies regarding my mother. I told them I might have documents to share." The word sent a strange thrill through me. Patricia's entire world revolved around that club. She bragged about the members, their money, and her perfect image. The thought of her losing that status made my heart pound in something close to triumph. Drew paused, turning to me. "There's a reason she's obsessed with appearances," he said. "I'm sure of it now. I just need more proof." Though my stomach twisted with nerves, I gave him a nod. We weren't backing down. Late one night, I found Drew staring at an old photo of me and him from our college days. It was pinned to our fridge, corners curled. I was wearing sweatpants and a messy ponytail, smiling so big you could see my crooked tooth. He traced the outline of my face. "I remember the first time I brought you to meet my mom," he said. When we left, she looked me dead in the eye and said, "No one is naturally that perfect." She was furious. "She thought you were showing her up by just existing." I laughed bitterly. "I'm hardly perfect." He shook his head. "That's not the point. She saw something in you, confidence, maybe, or natural beauty, and it ate her alive." I felt sick remembering all the digs, how she always found a way to pick me apart, even before I gained weight. She was jealous from day one. Then he handed me a crisp, cream-colored invitation that arrived that morning. She's throwing a big wellness gala next week. It'll be in local magazines, maybe even TV coverage. A nervous thrill shot through me. You think we should go? He looked at me, jaw set. We're going. She needs to see we're not afraid. Our mailbox held a thick gold envelope with our names elegantly printed on it. Inside was an official invite to Patricia's annual wellness gala. But something felt off. Why would she invite us after all these fights? Drew made a few calls. Turned out the event planner never got our names from Patricia. This was staged, like she wanted us to walk into a trap. I stared at the invitation, fiddling with the edge. So she wants us there. Or she doesn't. Which is it? Drew sighed, flipping the invitation over. I think she's messing with us. She probably hopes we won't show up so she can badmouth us to everyone. Or maybe she wants us to attend so she can publicly humiliate you again. Either way, I'm not playing by her script. I squirmed. The idea of another humiliating scene made me sick, but the thought of letting her get away with it was worse. Let's go, I said, voice shaky but determined. I'm tired of hiding. If she wants a showdown, fine. Drew's eyes met mine. All right, he said, tightening his hold on my hand. But let's be prepared. This time, we won't leave without making an impact. The gala was all soft music, fancy hors d'oeuvres, and bright lights. Patricia wore a shimmering gown that hugged her slim figure. She spotted us across the room, and her smile froze. We kept our distance at first, mingling politely. Tension buzzed in the air. Then, halfway through the event, Patricia took the stage. The mic screeched, making me jump. She cleared her throat, launching into a speech about health and wellness. Suddenly, she veered off script. Some women really don't put in the effort, she said, scanning the crowd until she locked eyes with me. My stomach dropped. Motherhood shouldn't be an excuse to let go of yourself. Her voice was sweet, but the knife in her words was sharp. Heat flooded my cheeks. The entire room turned toward me. Even the cameras seemed to point right at my face. I looked at Drew, tears threatening to spill. He gently touched my arm, guiding me away from the stairs. No fight, no shouting. We simply walked toward the exit. As we left, I heard a whisper across the hush. That's Drew's wife, isn't it? Patricia kept talking into the mic, but her eyes followed us, her expression triumphant. In the car, the humiliation caught up with me in an avalanche of tears. I can't do this anymore, I sobbed, leaning my forehead against the passenger window. I've never hated anything more than the way she makes me feel. Drew's hand trembled on the steering wheel. He pulled over to a quiet side street. I know, he said softly, turning off the engine. The silence roared in my ears. Then, in one swift motion, he popped open the glove compartment and took out the old envelope. My heart pounded. I remembered how he'd guarded it. He pressed it into my lap, his gaze intent. You deserve to know the truth. It's time. My breath hitched. With shaky fingers, I pulled the flap open. A stack of papers, photos, and typed-up documents spilled out. I glanced at him, nerves twisting in my gut. Drew exhaled. My dad told me she'd do this. Obsess over appearances, hurt anyone who challenged her image. He wanted me to see how she wasn't always like this. Not always. Skinny, rich, or even named Patricia. My eyes widened. What? He turned the key to start the car again. Let's go home, and I'll show you everything. Back in our living room, I spread the contents across the coffee table. My eyes landed on grainy photos of a younger woman. Round face, large body, awkward smile. She looked like Patricia, but not quite. Then medical forms, liposuction, tummy tuck, nose surgery, a list of procedures that made my head spin. Drew sat next to me, shoulders tense. She used to be severely overweight, he explained in a hushed tone. She told me once that she was a chubby teenager, but it was more than that. There were name change documents, too. Patricia wasn't her birth name. The receipts showed a pattern. As soon as she got the final surgery, she legally changed her identity. She moved states. She reinvented herself. I thumbed through a small stack of photos, each capturing her transformation. The woman in the last shot could pass for the Patricia we knew, lean, stylish, poised. Except she was smiling in a way that seemed haunted. She spent thousands and hid it from everyone, Drew said. But my dad knew. He supported her at first. Then she started tearing him down for gaining a little weight over the years, the same man who paid for her surgeries. My hands shook. She built her life on a lie. I kept flipping through the documents, heart pounding. It was like watching a movie, each photo unveiling a new layer of Patricia's carefully buried past. Articles from a small-town newspaper showed a name similar to hers, but not exactly. She'd left her old life behind and never looked back. Tax records, old medical notes. She had repeated surgeries, each taking her closer to the polished image she flaunted today. Most shocking, though, was how she'd erased every trace of her old self. No yearbook photos, no social media from before her reinvention, nothing. The last file in the pile was the biggest shock yet, a baby's birth certificate, typed on old paper. My eyes darted to the child's name, my stomach twisting. The mother's name matched Patricia's old identity. Drew noticed my shaking hands. I found that by accident. Dad said she abandoned that child with a relative. She pretended it wasn't hers. I felt sick. She told everyone it was her sister's kid? He nodded grimly. And now she's repeating a cycle of cruelty, only this time, it's aimed at you. I stared at the baby's name, dread washing over me. We need to find out what happened to that child. I recalled a story Drew once mentioned, a distant aunt who lived in another state. We decided to call her. It took a few tries, but finally an older woman's voice answered. Hello? I introduced myself nervously. I'm Drew's wife. We, found some old files about a child. There was a long pause, then she said, I wondered when this secret would come out. My heart thumped. She explained that the baby was indeed Patricia's first daughter. She left that baby here and told everyone it was my sister's child. She paid us to keep quiet. Then she took off, changed her name, and married Drew's father. I never saw her again. My stomach turned as I listened. So many years of lies. Tears stung my eyes. This was so much bigger than just weight comments and insults. Where's the girl now? Drew cut in gently. She's grown, the aunt said. She moved out, changed her own name, but we keep in touch. She hates Patricia for abandoning her. I felt a chill. What's her name now? The aunt hesitated. I'll have her contact you if she wants, but be careful. Patricia'll do anything to hide this. Armed with a few clues from that phone call, Drew and I decided to trace the half-sister ourselves. We scoured social media, old phone records, and even People Finder databases. All we had was a first name, Amy, and a few last names she might have used. Days turned into restless nights. Patricia grew suspicious. She'd text or call Drew, saying things like, "Why are you digging into my past?" or "You have no right." We stayed vague. I asked Drew once if we were being too extreme. "She's never shown us mercy," he answered, voice raw. "She insulted my dad to his last breath, and now she's tormenting you. We need to know what else she's hiding." Then, finally, a breakthrough. An old email from Amy popped up under one of the potential last names. We sent a cautious message. "Hi, we think we might be related. Your name came up with your aunt. We'd love to connect." 2 days later, a reply came. "I know who you are. I've been waiting for this." My heart raced. We were so close to the truth. But a looming fear still nagged me. Patricia wasn't going to let this happen without a fight. Sure enough, Patricia launched her attack. At work, I received a forwarded message from my boss. It was an anonymous tip accusing me of negligence at home. "She's unstable. I worry for the baby." My boss shook her head, showing me the email with a pitying look. "We traced it back to your mother-in-law's address. Are you okay?" I stared in disbelief. Tears burned in my eyes. Drew seethed when I told him. "That's it," he snapped, voice trembling. "She's trying to destroy you, just like she did to my dad." He fired off a text. "We're done. You'll never see us or your grandchild if you keep this up." She didn't reply. Instead, she posted cryptic messages on Facebook, talking about ungrateful family members and irresponsible mothers. I felt trapped in a nightmare. But then I remembered the envelope, the secret weapon. We couldn't keep waiting. I glanced at Drew, heart pounding. "Let's confront her. Show her we're serious." He grabbed the thick envelope, stuffed with evidence. "She's left us no choice." I tried to steady my breathing. We were about to flip her perfect world upside down. We arrived at Patricia's house unannounced. She opened the door, eyes flaring with irritation. "What are you two doing here?" she snapped. Drew held the envelope tightly under his arm. "We need to talk." He edged past her into the living room, and I followed. She looked ready to explode, but held her composure for once. "Sit," he said, pointing to the couch. Patricia's jaw dropped slightly. Drew had never spoken to her like that before. But she did sit, crossing her legs and glaring. I stood by the fireplace, my heart racing. You emailed my boss? You're trying to ruin my reputation, just like you ruined Dad's happiness. We have proof. She scoffed, but her eyes flickered with uncertainty. You can't prove anything. Drew unzipped the envelope, pulling out the documents. One by one, he laid them on the coffee table. Her old photos, medical records, name change papers, the baby's birth certificate. Patricia's face went from pale to ashen. Her breathing quickened. Where did you get those? She whispered. Drew locked eyes with her. Dad saved everything. He knew one day you'd go too far. Well, guess what, Mom? You finally did. Patricia stared at the papers like they were venomous snakes about to strike. Her perfect posture wilted. For the first time, I saw raw panic in her eyes. I can explain, she stammered, voice trembling. I had a rough childhood. My body, my family. She trailed off, struggling for words. I felt a mix of anger and pity, but mostly anger. You think that excuse is attacking your own son's wife for not snapping back to some fantasy wait? She looked at Drew, tears gathering. Please don't show anyone. I've worked so hard to become someone else. Drew's hand shook with emotion. Dad tried to love you for who you were, but you never forgave yourself for not being perfect. So you took it out on him, and now you're doing it to my wife. Patricia buried her face in her hands, shoulders shaking. After a long moment, she choked out a truth I never expected. I hated seeing women who were naturally beautiful and confident, because I never was. I had to buy it. I thought, if I tore them down, I'd feel better about me. I shut my eyes, tears burning. How many people had she hurt with that mindset? Drew's knuckles were white as he clutched the folder. Patricia looked up at him with watery eyes. For a beat, no one spoke. Finally, Drew cleared his throat. I'm not here to ruin you unless you give me a reason. But if you say one more cruel word to my wife, one more, every single person you know gets a copy of this. Your country club, your so-called friends, the local media. I promise you. Patricia's lip trembled. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. The arrogance was gone, replaced by desperation. Okay, she whispered, voice shaky. I won't. I swear I won't say anything. Part of me wanted her to apologize, to beg for forgiveness for all the pain she caused. But a simple sorry wouldn't heal these scars overnight. Drew turned to me, eyebrows raised. I nodded, swallowing the knot in my throat. Fine, I said. But understand, you do anything to hurt us again and we end this for good. She nodded like a frightened child, tears still glistening on her cheeks. I'll keep quiet, she whispered. We gathered the papers, slid them back into the envelope, and left her house in heavy silence. After that day, Patricia withdrew. No texts, no calls, no surprise visits. Part of me was relieved. Another part felt uneasy, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. But weeks passed and nothing. Drew and I finally breathed. I stopped checking my phone obsessively for her snide remarks. We settled into a calmer routine. Our baby started sleeping better, and we even managed a couple of date nights, mini victories that felt huge. In the back of my mind, I still held on to the envelope. We kept it locked away. Drew had scanned it, storing digital copies in a password-protected file. A silent reassurance that if she tried anything again, we weren't helpless anymore. One afternoon, I opened the mailbox and found a letter. The return address caught my eye. It was from Amy, Patricia's half-forgotten daughter. My heart skipped a beat. I hurried inside and called Drew. Together, we read her words. I know the damage she's caused. I understand if you want nothing to do with me, but I'm open to meeting, just not with her. Never with her. She included a phone number. My hands shook as I clutched the letter. We were about to meet the part of Patricia's past she'd buried. We arranged a quiet meeting at a local coffee shop. Amy was already there when we arrived, tall, reserved, eyes flicking nervously to the door. She looked a bit like Patricia in the jawline, but gentler. We ordered drinks, sat down, and introduced ourselves. Her voice trembled as she thanked us for reaching out. I never expected to have siblings, she admitted. I grew up hearing that my mom abandoned me for a better life. My heart ached. I'm so sorry, I said softly. We only recently found out you existed. Amy shrugged, sadness in her eyes. I made peace with it long ago. I don't want money or anything. I just needed to know I wasn't invisible. Drew nodded. Patricia is never going to acknowledge you, he warned, voice tight. She's built her entire reputation on being flawless. You don't fit that narrative. Amy's lips thinned. I know, but I don't want anything to do with her anyway. She made her choice when she left me behind. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Amy reached across the table, giving my hand a squeeze. I'm glad you found me, though. I wish you the best. We promised to keep in touch, though none of us wanted a big reunion with Patricia. We quietly left, hearts heavy but somehow lighter at the same time. In the months that followed, I focused on healing, mentally, emotionally, physically. My body was still changing, but I decided to embrace each stage. Some days I'd put on music and dance around the living room with the baby. Other days, I'd do light workouts, but only when I wanted to. I documented my journey in a little vlog, sharing the raw truth. My insecurities, my progress, my tears. One day, on a whim, I posted a short clip on social media talking about body positivity after birth. I didn't expect much, but by morning, it had thousands of views. Comments poured in from new moms who felt seen. You inspired me to love my postpartum body, wrote one. Another said, thank you for reminding me I'm allowed to heal at my own pace. Their words filled me with a warmth Patricia's insults could never extinguish. I realized that by sharing my story, I was helping others and helping myself too. Drew watched the video, tears in his eyes. I'm so proud of you, he whispered, pulling me into a hug. For the first time since all this drama began, I felt powerful, like I'd found a voice that Patricia couldn't silence. A week after my video went viral, I got a text from an unknown number. My stomach lurched when I read it. So you're a famous mommy blogger now? Still can't hide your flaws behind a camera. My heart pounded. No apology, no remorse, just bitterness. Clearly, Patricia had seen my success and couldn't stand it. I showed Drew the text. He tensed, then exhaled. You want me to threaten her again? I remembered the envelope, tucked safely away. But a wave of calm washed over me. No, I said quietly. We've made our point. She knows what will happen if she pushes further. Drew nodded, taking my phone. He deleted the message, then blocked her. The finality of it felt like a weight lifting off my chest. This time, I didn't shake or cry. I didn't even feel angry anymore. As I looked around our cozy home, baby toys scattered, my open laptop with supportive messages from strangers, I realized I had everything I needed. Patricia's bitterness was just noise. Let's delete the folder too, I said. Enough with this cycle of hate, we're done. Drew paused, then he clicked delete. And just like that, her power over us vanished. A year later, my son's first birthday party filled our house with laughter. Balloons floated overhead, and the smell of vanilla cake warmed the air. Friends and family gathered, but Patricia was absent by our choice. In that year, I'd grown stronger, physically and emotionally. My online community blossomed, and I used my platform to encourage self-love. I even connected with Amy off and on, supporting each other in ways Patricia never had. After we sang Happy Birthday, Drew set the baby down in his high chair, and I snapped a family photo. Just the three of us, smiling and carefree. We looked happy. Real. When I clicked through the camera roll later, a surprising sense of peace washed over me. I saw a woman who had been bruised by cruel words and impossible standards, but who had risen above. I saw a marriage that grew stronger through adversity. I saw a baby boy loved beyond measure. Patricia's insults felt like a distant echo. Her threats no longer haunted me. She had tried to shame me for my body, for not measuring up to her shallow ideal. But the best revenge was living well, because loving myself was the revenge she never saw coming. And with that, our cycle of pain ended forever.